Today's reading is from Everytown for Gun Safety, defining their use of the phrase gun violence survivor. A gun violence survivor is anyone who has personally experienced gun violence, whether you've witnessed an act of gun violence, been threatened or wounded with a gun, or had someone you know wounded or killed with a gun. This includes, but is not limited to, gun suicides, homicides, domestic violence involving a gun, and unintentional shootings. People may use different words to describe living through gun violence. Some may use victim, others may use survivor. Some use neither. Knowing that each person experiences trauma and healing differently, we use the word survivor to acknowledge pain and resilience and to recognize the unacceptable daily consequences of gun violence that are the reality for too many Americans. Our platform today includes multiple speakers from Moms Demand Action. This compelling lineup was assembled by Edith Beecham, WES member and a member of Maryland Moms Demand Action, who will introduce the panel. So Edith.
Thank you. For the Zoom audience, my name is Edith Beecham. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a member of the Washington Ethical Society, very proudly, and also a member of Moms Demand Action chapter of Prince George's County, Maryland. I want to welcome everyone to the Washington Ethical Society today, my guests, and to thank my fellow moms, dads, students, teachers, allies here in person and on Zoom. For those that are new to this movement, Moms Demand Action was founded after the tragedy at Sandy Hook Elementary, and it has grown into a nationwide, nonpartisan, grassroots movement of more than 11 million Americans demanding common sense solutions to end the gun violence epidemic that threatens our children, families, and communities. By the definition you just saw, I am a gun violence survivor. And trauma is not a competition. We each carry it in different ways. But I stand here not as someone who endured direct physical harm, like some of the courageous people with me today on this stage, but as someone shaped by fear and grief. Before I tell you that story, I want to briefly introduce the extraordinary speakers who will follow me. Allison Rodner. She is the Maryland State Lead for Moms Demand Action. That's an enormous volunteer undertaking. She will share some of the powerful work and wins happening across Maryland. Anthony McAllister. Anthony is a survivor dad whose journey through grief led him to become a best-selling author. I believe he has his book, Fathers Matter, and some copies if you're interested. But he is a best-selling author and a commissioner for the Maryland Parole Commission, most recently reappointed by Governor Wes Moore. Navian Scarlett. Navian is an organizer with Students Demand Action. I've met her at many events throughout Maryland. She goes to campuses and high schools and encourages them to start their own chapters, and she has been empowering young people to speak out, and herself is an award-winning speaker. And Fernando Smith. Fernando is a gun violence survivor who has worked for 2 decades in community violence intervention, incredible work, and also has stepped up to be the DC lead for Moms Demand Action. So these are remarkable human beings who climb mountains every day to reduce gun violence and protect our families and others' lives. I personally joined Moms Demand Action because of the influence of a teacher. My son has lost 8 friends. My daughter has lost 3. I don't need to tell you again, this is an epidemic. But I'm not going to tell those stories today, maybe one-on-one. But it was Fernando and Anthony who encouraged me to tell this story. It began when I was 9 years old. And I have to put my glasses on. I didn't print this in large enough font. When I was 9 years old, my parents had just moved with our family back to Washington, D.C. from 2 years in Lagos, Nigeria, where my father served in the newly formed U.S. Agency for International Development in the Kennedy administration. Just 3 months after we arrived back in this area, he was sent to Vietnam in September 1965 to help oversee humanitarian relief for the United States Department of State. I was 9 when my dad left, and I was 12 when he got back, other than 2-week vacations. My mom, when she was cooking dinner, would watch the news every night, hoping to catch any information about what was happening, my dad was experiencing. And night after night, I witnessed images of dead and wounded people, afraid my dad would be one of them. When he came home, he told me something I will never forget. He said, I survived Vietnam because I did not carry a gun. Carrying a gun makes me a target. This is a man who was a marksman in the Army. He could have carried a gun. The moment you pull a gun out, you are in a duel. Somebody is going to be terribly wounded or die. It is a myth that guns make us safer. Years later, when the Vietnam Veterans Memorial was erected, we went together to see it. And at that time, there were 54,000 soldiers' names on the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. You can visualize that. One name on one panel could have been my dad. And in that moment, I just sobbed. In 2023 alone, in a single year, there were nearly 47,000 gun deaths in America, single year. As many lives lost in that 1 year, almost, as in a decade of military involvement in Vietnam. Last year, there were 3,000 fewer, so it was, according to the CDC, it was 44,000. That's a trend in the right direction. But that's almost 90,000 names in 2 years. That's almost 2 memorial walls. So if that visual helps you to understand the size of the mountain that our guests are climbing and why we need so many people to join us and support us, when you hear their stories, you will learn there are ways to walk with them up that mountain. And we are grateful that WES is committing to help us on this journey. Thank you. Allison?
Thank you for that introduction, Edith. Good morning. As Edith said, my name is Allison Rodner, and I am the Maryland chapter lead for Moms Demand Action. I'm happy to be here today and share a little bit about who we are and what we do. You may hear a couple of repeated facts, but the numbers are important in a lot of what we do. Moms Demand Action was started by a mom in the day after the Sandy Hook shooting in 2012, when she posted to her social media that we should be doing more to prevent gun violence. We now have chapters in every state and Washington, D.C. Our parent organization, Everytown for Gun Safety, also encompasses Students Demand Action, the Everytown Survivor Network, and Mayors Against Illegal Guns. Together, all of these organizations are the largest gun violence prevention organization in the country, as Edith said, with close to 11 million supporters. We are a grassroots, nonpartisan, nonprofit organization, and our volunteers are not just moms. We have dads, we have non-parents, we have grandparents, survivors, veterans, educators, and the list goes on. What we do all have in common is our desire to reduce gun violence in our communities. On average, now 125 Americans are shot and killed every day by guns, and approximately double that number are injured. We know that gun violence is a uniquely American public health epidemic, but we also know that it is preventable. The data is clear. states with better gun laws have lower gun violence. So what do? We work to pass stronger gun laws at both the state and federal levels and to close loopholes that jeopardize the safety of our families. As we do every year, we will gather in Annapolis once the 2026 Maryland legislative session begins to rally with elected officials and meet with our state delegates and senators to speak on the bills we will be lobbying for. Over the years, we have lobbied for and passed a number of gun safety laws in Maryland, including laws expanding background checks and a red flag law to temporarily take firearms from someone who is a proven danger to themselves or others. And you can look out for more information when we plan that day. That'll be coming at the end of the year. We'll have the date. We also work to elect candidates to public office up and down the ballot who share our values of gun safety. We will have lots of ways to help with elections in 2026 for both state and federal candidates. We are currently working with the Virginia Moms chapter on their governor and House elections in November. We know that guns do not stop at state lines, so ensuring other states, especially those that border us, have gun safety laws is essential. We work in our community to encourage a culture of responsible gun ownership through our safe storage education program called Be Smart. When guns are not safely secured, there's a high risk of them falling into the hands of someone who does want to hurt themselves or others. We have volunteers who are specially trained on this program who will table at events, speak to PTAs, faith organizations, neighborhood groups, anyone who wants to hear more about our program. The program reinforces that it is the responsibility of the gun owner to keep their guns stored. It can help save lives that could end up being taken by homicide and suicide. And we have information on Be Smart at our table outside. We also work with community partner organizations who are addressing the root causes of gun violence. In the past, our partners have included organizations working in domestic violence, food insecurity, and supporting the youth who have already experienced gun violence. And most of all, we also support gun violence survivors, who we call the heart of our movement. As I said, we're all volunteer organization. We have actions and opportunities for you to do if you have 2 minutes a month or if you have hours a month. If you are not already connected to Moms Demand Action, we would love for you to join us. You don't have to do this now if you don't have your phone with you, but if you text the word READY, R-E-A-D-Y, to the number 64433, you will be asked for some information like your zip code and things like that will connect you to your local group. Like Edith said, she's with the Prince George's local group. We have local groups in all the counties and areas in Maryland and DC. So you'll be asked just a few questions about you, and then you will be connected to your local group. And going forward, you'll receive texts and emails about events coming up and actions that we need people to take. It may be as quick as sending an email to your elected official to tell them to pass this bill or to not pass this bill. You can also sign up at, and learn more about us at our website, which is momsdemandaction.org. Our volunteers after this program will be happy to answer any questions as well. And everything I just said, we have on the table outside. So you can go ahead and get more information there. So thanks again for having us today.
Good morning. First of all, I want to extend a heartfelt gratitude to the Washington Ethical Society and Moms Demand Action for inviting me to speak here today. My name is Anthony McAllister, and I stand before you as a father who has faced the unimaginable loss, the tragic murder of my 18-year-old daughter, Ayanna. She was taken from us far too soon by senseless gun violence. In 2017, while home on spring break in her first year in college, Ayanna was shot and killed by a stray bullet. In the aftermath of this tragedy, I realized that healing is a journey and not a destination. Therefore, I sought counseling to navigate the depths of my grief. While my mourning may at times be silent, I understood early on that dark days would inevitably come. It is through this process that I have begun to find a glimmer of light. In honor of Ayanna, my wife and I established the Ayanna J. McAllister Legacy Foundation, dedicated to combating gun violence in our community. Our mission extends beyond remembrance. It's about creating safer environments for future generations. Through our foundation, we strive to give back by providing annual scholarships to college-bound youth and organizing community activities focused on preventing gun violence. Today, I urge each of you to reflect on the critical importance of mental health and gun violence prevention, and the collective role we can play in dismantling the cycle of violence. Together, we can inspire, change, and create a brighter future for our children. I want to thank you all for having me.
Hi, everyone. I'm Navian Scarlett. I am founder of Students Demand Action chapter for Frederick County. I've been active with Moms Demand Action for about a year before I founded my own chapter for students. I've been involved for over 8 years from my own gun violence survivor story, and I just want to share a little bit about myself. My journey started in 2015 at back to school night. I was there to prepare to start high school. I was actually very excited. It was a new school that I got to watch. My middle school is next to my high school, so I got to watch the new school being built. So I was very excited. We got a new building, we got all brand new things, and then I finally got to step foot in the place for back to school night. And everything was fine. Everything was as I expected until I heard 4 gunshots. And initially, I didn't understand what it was I heard until I heard screaming, I heard crying, and then we were all being hustled into the cafeteria because they were locking down the building. And I start with this premise because this cafeteria, these hallways, are now a reminder of what I experienced before I even really got to do anything in this building. That this new facility for learning has been tainted with this experience for not just myself, but for other students. And then the next day, it all became so real when everything got shut down. The middle school got shut down, the high school got shut down, and it was all over the news. And it was an out-of-body experience because I was no longer watching it happen to someone else. It was no longer some other student halfway across the country. It wasn't somebody else's school. It was mine. And it was where I was expected to go after experiencing this. There was no therapy, there was no help, there was no reassurance that it wouldn't happen again. It was just you were expected to go on with daily life. And as I continued to go through school with these reminders, I realized that, especially being a younger person, I realized that growing up, we're always told that, adults are there to help us, and they weren't there. Where were they when the shooting happened? Where were they when we needed support? Where were they when I was having nightmares about it happening again? Where were they when I was scared to have lockdowns because it could happen in that moment? Where were they when they had shooting drills and had automation, which is the most outrageous thing to do to anybody who's experienced gun violence, and have all of us having breakdowns, having PTSD reactions to the whole entire thing, and then saying, okay, it's over, go back to your lessons. So where were they to help us get through something we'd have to live with for the rest of our lives? And so then started my journey of trying to figure out where the line is between asking adults for help and taking it into my own hands, between asking for help and demanding it, between sitting down and making a post or actually marching, between sitting down and talking to my friends about it in the cafeteria versus actually sitting down with a legislator and saying, you need to keep me alive. You need to keep us alive. If we're the future, then what are you doing when you're telling me no? When you're telling me my story doesn't matter, when you're telling me that what I experienced is probably just a one-time thing, which it wasn't. It wasn't just a one-time thing. I thought I was done. I thought I checked off the list. I thought it was a one-time experience for me. I thought it was just done, that I just had this one thing that happened and that I wouldn't have to experience it again. But it wasn't just a one-time thing. In my junior year of high school, a senior was killed at an after-prom party, fatally shot. And it wasn't just, oh, I don't see them in the hallway because they moved on to college. It's because I don't see them in the hallway anymore because they're gone. They were just there, about to graduate, and they didn't get to. So now my new fear is, will I get to? Should I even go to prom? Should I even do the things that are considered normal? And when your reality is shifted and controlled by something that's uncontrollable or unforeseen, really, how do I create my own normal? How do I go to the movies with my friends when I know that I can't because I'm thinking about things that no one else does? I'm thinking about an exit strategy. I'm thinking about all the shootings in movie theaters I've seen happen across the country because I thought school shootings was somewhere else too. So what's left for me to experience? What's left for me to experience when, we can't go to the grocery store? We can't, we can barely even walk down the street without having to ensure our own safety or worry about what could happen to us. Over the course of my high school time, I got a phone, and I used that phone to tell my mom every morning when I made it to school and every morning when I got on the bus to come back home, because I didn't know if that was going to be the last time. I didn't know if after that morning, regardless of whatever happened, maybe I had a fight with her, whatever, I would tell her, I'm at school, everything's fine, I'm in class. Sometimes I would even call her to let her know that everything's okay. Or if she saw something that said there was a lockdown or if there was something happening, I would let her know because I didn't know what it was for. I didn't know what would happen next. And so I've been ripped from my reality and continue to be, because now that I've experienced it, every time I see something on the news, it's not just a headline. I see myself. I see who I could have been without this experience, but I see what I am because of it. I see that not just myself, but bullying now meant a different thing, because what if they brought a gun? What if they decided to just do what they said they would every day to me? And what are we doing about it? I continue to have hope. I continue to say, make excuses and say they're trying their best. They're doing their best. They're going to fix it. But in all my time of serving in volunteer work and begging and pleading with legislators to do what is right to keep kids alive, I've learned that it's not about who we consider to be in power. We have to take it in our own hands. We have to speak up. We have to march. We have to encourage our peers to do the same, because it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter where you are, who you are, what position you hold. It can happen to any of us. And it doesn't matter what school you go to. It doesn't matter, if you're in a fancy private school or if you're in a public school. It doesn't matter, because even outside of school, you could be at the mall, you could be at the grocery store, you could be basically anywhere, and it could happen to you. So it came to a point of, how long are we going to make excuses for something that's preventable? How long are we going to continue to act like this is okay and act like this is normal and act like it's just a number? It's not just a number. A body was missing from my classroom. A body was missing from our hallway. A body was missing from the stage for graduation. And everyone was just acting like it was normal. And so that's why I decided to start my own chapter. That's why I decided to continue fighting. That's why I go to every advocacy day in January to sit in front of legislators and have them tell me, no, we don't believe that we should fight to keep any children alive because of someone else's interest or this or that, or whatever excuse it is they want to make. But I take that head on because, to be honest, I faced a bullet, so what is sitting in front of someone who's going to deny me my rights to stay alive? And with this message, I want to let everyone know that it's not just a one-time thing. It's not just someone else. It's not just someone else's kid. And I've heard all of the excuses I could possibly hear. Oh, I don't have children. Oh, I don't have any young people that I know that, this would affect. Okay, but when we talk about who our future is, then are you okay with disrupting your own future? Are you okay with disrupting what we have left? And so I started to rally, I started to encourage other students, and time again, it's really interesting that I have to remind students who say, oh, I can't talk to an adult. I can't say that to an adult. And I said, why not? You could die. Why can't you say to an adult that you could die and they need to do something? Why can't you say that you could die and they need to speak up? That you can die and they need to put whatever else they have to the side because a life is at stake? Why can't you say that? And that's why I continue to encourage other young people to speak up, to rally together, to create organizations, and to come together, not just when something happens, but before it does. Because when something happens, that's what they expect us to do. They expect us to get upset. They expect us to rally together. But I don't want it to happen again. Every day, a lot of people don't know, every day 125 people are killed by gun violence. So when we talk about numbers, every day, 125 families have lost a family member. And it's just, it makes, when you put yourself in that mindset of understanding this, every holiday, I expect something to happen. I wait for it. I wait for the headline. Someone forgot the butter. Someone forgot to pick something up for Thanksgiving, and they don't get back to the table. Somebody forgot to pick up that gift for Christmas, and they don't make it back to watch the person open it. This is our reality, but it shouldn't be. And this is why our young people are standing up, and I encourage our adults to stand up as well, because there's a lot of young people right now who are standing up with a family that does not rally behind them, because they don't want to put those other things to the side and understand that what their child sees is funerals, is going to school and coming back home in a body bag, is using textbooks like I did. Even though I didn't need them, I carried about 2 to 3 10-pound textbooks in my backpack because maybe it could stop a bullet. Maybe if I needed to, it would protect me. And now we're normalizing bulletproof backpacks when we should be tackling the root of the problem. This is a reality we shouldn't have to live with. We should be able to feel safe somewhere, but we don't. I should be able to go anywhere and not have to look for an exit strategy or even decide if I want to go because I'm too scared. I have too much PTSD. I have too much trauma, and I just can't handle it. And the people I'm going with just don't understand. Doesn't matter how much therapy you get, how much community you have, how many people you have rallying behind you. This is something that everyone needs to understand, that we're really dealing with something that is beyond us. And it's beyond the understanding that children will be killed and then we're just going to continue on with our day. That we don't see the headline and we don't have a breakdown. We're just say another one. I can't believe another one just happened. And then you just go back to work. You just go back to what you're doing like nothing happened. But every time this happens, a survivor has a breakdown. Every time this happens, a family who's lost someone has a breakdown because they see their child in it, they see their family member in it, or they see themselves in it. So I encourage everyone, even if it's one time that you can volunteer, even if it's the one thing that you can post, I encourage you to spread the word because this is not a story that should continue. We need to come together and we need to rally together. And we need adults to rally behind the students who don't have adults in their life who will support them fighting for their life. Because there are. I've talked to them. There's many of them. Because a lot of people want to make this partisan when it's not. Basic right to life is not partisan. Basic needs to get an education that is necessary to survive in society, but being worried about being killed every day is not normal. And still, they have parents, they have guardians that will not support them fighting for their right to life. So I encourage us as community members, as people who know other young people, to rally behind our young people who are trying their best, fighting everything, including their home, in order to stay alive and protect their classmates. We shouldn't normalize it. And we all need to rally together and really show that if they want numbers, we'll give it to them. We'll give them numbers at Advocacy Day. We'll give them numbers at our rallies. We'll give them numbers when we're marching. And we'll show them that the numbers that they want is really not what they're going to receive. The numbers that they're used to seeing is going to be in a different aspect, because it's going to be us across the country rallying together, saying that we've had enough and something needs to happen now. Not tomorrow, not next year, right now. And that's why I continue fighting, and that's why I continue to advocate, and that's why I continue to share my story, no matter how much it breaks me every time I do. Because you relive it every time you tell your story, which a lot of people don't understand. That every time I decide to go to Advocacy Day and I talk to maybe 4 or 5 legislators and I have to relive my moment, that I have to recover. But I feel like it's worth it because I could be saving a life. I feel like it's worth it because I could be saving many lives just by sharing what I experience and sharing why I won't stop, sharing why I will continue to do what I do. And I encourage you all, even if whether it's Everytown or there's many different organizations, to volunteer and really come out and show up as much as you can, because we need to show them numbers. It keeps increasing every year. The number of deaths by gun violence per day was lower, and now it's higher. So I encourage all of you to really soak in what we have to say today and to really look into what it is you can do to protect us, to protect children, to protect your neighbors, to protect your community, because it's only a matter of time until it's you. It's only a matter of time before your reality is ripped from you, your normal is ripped from you. It's just only a matter of time. And I'm tired of waiting, and I hope you are too. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Fernando Smith. I'd like to take a moment just to welcome my guests and to really take heed to what we just heard, and to just take a moment to just close our eyes for a second and just imagine a world where we all can come together. A world where we see the peace, where we can navigate to bring the solutions that we need. Thank you. That was a remarkable story. I'm a DC resident. I'm a survivor of gun violence. I started in the Office of Gun Violence Prevention. I helped implement the first Office of Gun Violence Prevention in Washington, D.C., where we coordinated federal funding, implemented life-saving techniques, coordinated local leaders, to get a complete ecosystem of the gun violence scenario in Washington, D.C., under Director Linda Holly Harper. It was during at one of these meetings that at the state capitol, where I ran into a group of women that were wearing, group of women and men that were wearing red T-shirts. I was there representing Washington, D.C., when the first gun violence, when the assault weapon ban first was implemented and it was passed, and they were celebrating. And I met someone there, Lisa Gordon, and I asked her, she had on a red shirt, and I asked her, you know, what's going on with all of the red shirts? And she broke it down to me, and she said they're survivors of gun violence. And she asked me my story. And I explained to her my story, that here is, I was sitting there with a bullet in my head that gives me recurring headaches almost daily, and a handicapped hand, and I didn't even realize that I was a survivor of gun violence because I was still surviving. Every day I spend life in the trenches in Washington, D.C., trying to teach these young men, trying to show them a different way, a different pathway out of what has become so normal to them. When I hear 125 people dying a day of gun violence, it resonates to me that I've met moms that have lost not only 1, but 2 to 3 of their children. Some of their men are completely gone out of their household. I see now, I've been in the gun violence industry for almost 20 years, and there's so many divisive tactics that's being used against us to divide us up. And across all boards, scenarios, while it's great to celebrate our differences, it's uniquely spiritual to attach to the likeness of our common attributes. And that's what I reach out to you all today to say, is that no matter where we come from, I've heard the sound of a mother's scream when she lost one of her loved ones. That sound is no different from someone that lost a loved one in Washington, D.C., or someone that lost a loved one in Kansas, or in Washington State, or in California. That sound disturbs me almost every night when I sleep because it does not go away. And it's a sound that's constantly being heard over and over and over and over again. So when she asks, what can we do about it? We got men, we got people, we got space, we got different techniques and avenues that we can join in. Moms Demand Action is a uniquely qualified opportunity for everyone to find a space to be able to fit in, to be able to provide help through volunteerism. I reach out to my members and I state to them that showing up sometimes is just the answer, and being that ear to someone that has lost so many loved ones and has to deal with this trauma over and over again, that doesn't have a choice. And in Washington, D.C., as well as a lot of other urban places, that's there. I leave you with this. It's a story that I remember a young man walked up to me and he said, man, what can you say to me? You know, he stuck out, he actually has gotten shot, and he has to go back to the same area that he come back to. And I give you this same story that I gave him. The bridge is out. If we knew the urgency of what we're facing, we have a whole group of people that's going towards a bridge that's out. The bridge is out. And I tell him, I said, I said, do you trust me? I said, do you trust me if, you know, you can talk to me, you can hear the sincerity in my voice. But if I'm telling you that the bridge is out, I've been down that crossroad. In the 1980s, unfortunately, I was part of the problem. I went to prison for over 13 years straight. I spent over 20-something years in prison mentoring young men because I was one of those young men. And now I want to be that person to those 13-year-olds because love is the answer. We cannot turn our back on them. They are human just like us. And they're coming up in this environment, and that's all they know. I speak daily with them in the trenches, letting them know the bridge is out. The only thing going towards that way that you're going is death and destruction to you or someone else. The bridge is out. We need to step up. We need to be able to give our time and our resources to those that are out here helping in these trenches because we need help. And the help comes from us. The answer is love. Love will always supersede evil. And I leave you with this. The answer is always in the community. And we are the community. And we have to join with each other, join with our fellow citizens. No matter what differences that we have, no matter what we're facing, no matter what we feel is on our back, we all are together in this. Bullets do not have no names. They never did, they never will. Thank you.
I want to say thank you with deep gratitude to all of our speakers who shared your experiences today, but also your hope and passion for change. Thank you for that inspiration as well.